The sub 3-hour marathon. It requires an average pace of 6 minutes and 49 seconds per mile. Just to show you how hard that is, Lance Armstrong, 7 times Tour de France winner, a man with a legendary VO2 max, he ran a marathon 1 year after his final Tour victory, and he got a 2:59.36. David Goggins' fastest marathon time ever was a 2:56.38 in the Boston Marathon. Nick Symmonds, the YouTuber and Olympic sprinter, just a couple years after competing in the Olympics and World Championships as a sprinter, he attempted a sub 3-hour marathon and he fell short by 34 seconds. Casey Neistat tried for the sub 3 for 17 years and only recently beat it in 2023. There's a reason the Boston Marathon holds this as the qualifying standard for the fastest age group. It's a milestone that only 4% of marathoners ever reach, a finish time that separates the casual runners from the truly committed. When I first started running, the idea of running a sub 3-hour marathon never entered my mind. It wasn't something, I haven't had like a lifelong goal of running the Boston Marathon or qualifying or anything like that. So running a sub 3-hour marathon means 6:45 pace, 6:47 pace on average for 26 miles. And that seemed impossible to me. Like I had done 1 mile all out in this, my family did this Olympics event with my extended family. So we did 1 mile and we all competed, and my 1 mile all out was a 6:26. And so thinking of doing, a little bit slower than that, but going for 26.2 miles seemed impossible. So I signed up for my first marathon just because I wanted to check it off the list. My wife had been doing some marathons and I wanted to be able to say I ran a marathon. And so I signed up, and then I chose the goal finish time of sub 3:30 because I looked around at a bunch of my friends and they had run marathons, and if I could break the sub 3:30, then I would be the fastest of my friends. And so that's obviously very important.
I have a competition in me.
So I signed up for the marathon. I trained the whole summer for it, training to break a sub 3:30 for my first one. So I did it. I ran a 3:28 and felt really good about it, and it was really hard, and I wanted to do it again, and I felt like I could do better. There were guys that did a 3:16, and I'm like, oh man, that seems really hard, and it was super impressive. They got a 3:16. So back then I really wasn't a runner at all, and I was doing a lot of different stuff. So I considered myself like a lifter. I would go to the gym every day because I was trying to get jacked, trying to look good, and I thought that running too much would make me look super skinny and frail. So I was hesitant to run a whole lot. I've also always been into cycling, but I've done it very passively. So there's usually a race at the end of the year that I'll sign up for and I'll do, but it's not even a race. It's like a ride. I don't do it competitively. It's just kind of a fun thing. And then I was also playing pickleball, getting into archery, getting into all so many different activities that I was doing. So the idea of getting a sub 3-hour marathon was I would have to give up all of this stuff and just be running. And I don't know if I want to do that. Then I started to really dive into the running influencers and seeing a lot of them that were chasing the sub 3-hour marathon and doing it, accomplishing it, and even more in a lot of cases. And I thought these are just pretty normal guys, a lot of them without a real running background. So the seed was then planted on me okay, so maybe I could run a sub 3-hour marathon and I could do it fairly soon. And then seeing videos from Casey Neistat where he talked about chasing the sub 3-hour marathon forever and then finally achieving it. So I'm getting deeper into the running world, starting to really understand running finish times and what it takes to get those. And then talking to different family members who would say oh, my aunt ran the Boston Marathon and she was a big time runner. So I started to realize that this could be a lifetime achievement. You qualify for and run in the Boston Marathon. That could be something that they talk about at your funeral, something that your kids are forever chasing, that they're trying to beat their dad or trying to beat their mom. And I think that's so cool. You're basically building a legacy and something for people to then follow. And you're kind of setting an example for your kids. I had realized that I'd spent the last 10 years of my life doing a lot of different things and being very mediocre at a lot of different things. And I had nothing to show for it. Of all those years, I didn't have any strong things that my family, my kids could look at and say, dad did this and I want to do that because dad did it. Or I want to beat dad's time. Or the thing at your funeral, talking at your funeral that this, Jake, in his long years, he played pickleball a bunch and he went to the gym and boy, did he go. Sometimes he would leave without breaking a sweat, but he was consistent. He was very good at maintaining. So finally, I'm in the mode of thinking of what if I really commit and running is my only thing for the next 1 to 2 to 3 years? Let's do it and see what happens. So one of the first things I did was obviously sign up for the marathon. So I had my goal of an October marathon, and then I hired a coach to get me prepped for that marathon. So he built out a training program for me, and he was like a good resource. I would text him any questions that I had. I also trained with a couple buddies that had the same goal of a sub 3 hour marathon. So we would do a lot of our big, like our long runs on Saturdays together. And during the summer, I ran a couple half marathons just to get more race experience under me and just trying to gauge how close I was to actually being able to break the sub 3 marathon. So I'm feeling good, and going into my October marathon, feeling solid, feeling confident. And I even bumped my goal out. So I decided I wanted to go for a 2:52 for my finish time. And that's because in order to qualify for the Boston Marathon, you have a certain finish time. So for me, being over 35, it's a 3 hour, I have to get a sub 3 hour time. But there's so many people that apply that in order to guarantee your spot in, you have to get like 2 to 7 minutes faster than your qualifying time. So I thought, okay, 2:52, I think I'm in good enough shape. Let's go for it. And that'll guarantee myself a spot. We'll be sitting pretty, looking good. And all the while, my wife is kind of on the same track as me, but she's going for a sub 3:30 because that's her cutoff time for the Boston qualifying time. So I think she actually wanted to get like a 3:20 was her goal for this St. George Marathon in October. So we're both training, and it is a lot of time. It is a lot of work for both of us. Like one of us has to be watching the kids. Like imagine us going on a 20-mile run. So you're going to be gone for like 3.5 hours if you're driving out to somewhere 4 hours. And so it would be like our whole day would be basically us doing our training. But it was really fun. We got to do some training together. So then we both show up at this marathon, St. George, Utah, early October 2024. So last year. I just did my packet pickup and I'm running a marathon tomorrow morning.
That's ready to run bus. It's warm in here. I got full sweats.
The race starts and you're kind of going downhill for the first little bit, and then you hit a hill at mile like 7 or 8, I think. And the hill, I remember the hill being way harder than it should have been for me. I had done a lot of hill training, but I got up to the top of the hill. So then I'm like 8-9 miles in, and I'm starting to feel it. And I'm to the point where like I try to take a full breath and I can't get like a full breath of air. So that early on, I'm starting to feel pretty crappy. Our 2-year-old had actually been sick earlier in the week, and I know that that's what it was. I think I was a little bit sick and I didn't realize it until like during the race, it started to hit me. So my plan was to do kind of a negative split, to start slow and then pick it up in the end. So I was with the 3-hour pacer and for the first half. And then I got through the first half and I passed all of them. And I'm like, okay, it's on. I'm probably going to get a second win. I'm going to be feeling good here in a second, and get out there and just feel awful. Like feel so crappy. I can't, like my legs feel heavy. I can't breathe very well. And slowly the 3-hour pacer passes me, and I'm starting to see my goals kind of slip away. So my 2:52 goal, I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this. As I'm hitting like mile 16, 17, 18, there's no way. But I can still get sub 3. I can get a sub 3. They're just right up ahead. Keep them in eyesight, and I'll catch them towards the end. And then slowly they faded away. I knew that sub 3 wasn't going to happen. And then getting into the final like 6 miles, I was like 3:05, just 3:05. And the whole time I'm just trying to stay in it, trying to not give up and walk. There's a guy that I really like, George Heaton. He's the Represent founder. It's a clothing brand. And he had just done basically the exact same thing in the Berlin Marathon, where he set out to break the sub 3, and then he just fell apart. And towards the end, I think he like sat down at an aid station. He was walking a full mile, I'm pretty sure. So he ended up getting a 3:16. So the whole time in my mind, I'm like, do not give up. Like at least stay in it. So I would do these like, 10 seconds on, 10 seconds off, like 10 seconds trying to run hard, and then 10 seconds like really slowing down, 10 seconds hard, like just trying whatever I could to stay in it. And then it was also some of the hottest weather that they've ever had at the St. George Marathon. So overall, it was just a disaster, and I finished with a 3:05. And then my wife, it was basically an identical experience. She kind of crapped out at the end, and she ended up getting like a 3:40. Something like that. So we both had terrible performances, but we'd been training since like March. So we had all this training under our belt. We felt like we were in good enough shape. So we thought, okay, let's register for another marathon in a month. Like, let's take advantage that we're in good shape. There was a marathon in California called the Big Bear Marathon. And it's this downhill marathon. People sign up for it just to qualify for the Boston Marathon because it's incredibly fast. It's all downhill. And we thought, we're in good enough shape. Plus with the downhill assist, there's no way we qualify for Boston and then we go in 2026. So me and my wife and 2 of my buddies, we fly down to California, and we, get our hotel. We get a babysitter for our 3 kids back at home, and we land. We do our packet pickup. We're like eating so much. We're doing a carb load, so we're feeling like very full. We set everything out in the hotel.
There he goes. Oh, you're gonna just run in those?
We're ready, dude. Come on. Okay, so we're gonna wake up at 3 because the bus time is at 3:45 is the last bus. This is optimal temperature regulation because we got this to start out over the ears, nose, mouth, throat. It's snowing up there right now. It's been raining outside, so it is probably snowing up at the start line. We're gonna get up there at 4:45. And then it starts at 6, so we'll have to hang out for like an hour. And we'll be full sweats, beanie, and I want to do like a little quarter-mile jog up the road and back to kind of get warm before we have to strip down, because then you take all your clothes and you put it in a bag that they then take to the finish line. All right, we got the stuff all laid out. That's the setup. It's exciting stuff. I'm gonna make some oatmeal in the morning and drink some Relight and be ready to go. So then we wake up in the morning, 3 o'clock, to go catch the bus, and we get a text from the race that says that the marathon is canceled. The full marathon was just canceled. So we're super bummed, and we change our flight to just like, we're up. So we're like, oh, I guess we just fly home. So we change our flight. We go to the airport for a 6 a.m. flight, miss our flight. And then we just sit in the airport for like 4 or 5 hours until we finally caught the next flight. So again, the sub 3 or the Boston qualifying time slips out of our hands for me and my wife. So the marathon in California gets canceled. Devastated. Walk me through what you were feeling and then what happened that day actually.
It was one of the worst days of my life. I'm not kidding. It really was.
You always say that. It's a little dramatic.
No, it's not dramatic. It was one of the worst days of my life because I had worked so hard for this goal, both of us together. It was so much sacrifice for both of us to train for another marathon together. And we were kind of tired of it because I wanted to try to have a baby before the Boston Marathon next year. Yeah. So the time was kind of ticking for me, like as far as like kids and planning our family life. So I had,
if it went too late in the year, like
if I was to keep pushing it out, I was going to miss my 9-month window to have a baby, and I was like feeling a little pressure. So everything was like depending on this race and me, and I was so sure I was gonna qualify. Like I was so sure. And then we wake up and they're like, you came out of the bathroom and you're like, Pumpkin, they canceled the marathon. And I was like changing into my running clothes.
You were in bed still?
No, I was standing up. Oh,
I did go in the bathroom.
Yeah, you were coming out of the bathroom and I had already stood up. Like I was ready. I was like gathering my stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was like, thought you were kidding. You would kid about that.
I would, yeah.
And you weren't.
So in the fine print, they said like, the full marathon is canceled, but you're welcome to run the half marathon for free, and we'll still give you a credit so you can do another full marathon. We thought it was like one or the other, like you take your credit or you do the half. We were like feeling a sense of urgency to get home because your mom was watching the kids. So we're like, we'll just like not run the half. Let's just go home. It'll be so smooth. We'll be home by 8 a.m. We thought. And then we go to the airport. I have TSA pre-check, so I went through and I was trying to hold them at the gate. She's like giving me updates and I'm holding them. They shut the door. They're like, nope, sorry, we can't wait anymore. They shut the door to the gate. As I was sprinting
to the door, the lady
she got there like 90 seconds after. Probably about a minute.
Yeah.
About a minute after they like locked it, and then we like watched the plane just back up and take off, and it was horrible. So we could have run the half marathon and made the same flight home.
And I cried at the airport. I just burst into tears, and it was really, really, really sad. The thing that like snapped me out of my depression and just my depths of despair at the airport was you saying, at least you're not flying home with me in a casket. that really just
puts it in perspective.
Yeah, I was
you
like,
missed your
this isn't
marathon,
a
who
big
cares?
deal.
We had spent a lot of money on like flights to get down there.
It was like $1,600.
Yeah, like $1,600 that we spent, and it was all wasted. There's always gonna be like challenges and things that are even outside of your control. Like it started to feel like a miracle to be able to show up to a race healthy, like the weather's good, everything, your gut feels good, your feet feel good, everything feeling good. It felt like a miracle for that all to, like, the stars to align. So the next closest marathon that we could get into was the Mesa Marathon, and it was gonna be, so it's in February, and this was in November is when the Big Bear incident happened, when our marathon got canceled. So that meant that we were gonna have to continue training from November all the way through the holidays and through the winter to be prepped to go for February. And we decided to do it. Part of the reason was my wife really wanted to get pregnant so that she would be having a baby before the holidays of 2025 of this year. So the time was kind of, the clock was ticking, as they say. So we get right back into a training program. I kind of wrote out what my plan was going to be for the next, December, January, and then into February for what our training was going to look like. We ended up having to run in the snow a lot, ended up having to run on treadmills inside a lot, and felt pretty solid going into our marathon. And it was actually a lot of fun to be, training through, like Christmas Eve, I'm out running. Christmas Day, I didn't hit a run Christmas Day. It was a lot of training, and then the day of the marathon came, so we flew down to Mesa, Arizona. Everything went smooth. There's an airport that's like 10 minutes from our house, so we flew from that airport. It's a small airport. Flew to Mesa, which is another small airport, got a rental car. Everything going super smooth. We ate our pre-race classic of Chipotle for lunch, and then we had this really good restaurant for dinner. Before dinner, we did our shakeout run, and I was getting the worst heartburn. If I run within like 4 hours of having a real meal, I get the worst heartburn ever. So we did our shakeout run. It really sucked, and I was getting kind of a pain in my knee, which is not good, the day before the marathon. So that's kind of in the back of my head. I had been putting a heat pad on it. I'd been foam rolling my IT bands, my calves, like trying to get it to loosen up. But then going into the next day, so we set our alarms, we wake up, my knee's feeling okay. We get in the bus. Actually, we had to park really far away. So we get to the start line and it's like mayhem. There's so many cars. So we have to park. We parked like across the street from this big sports complex. And then we walk over, get in line for the bus, get on the bus, drive up to the start line, and everything goes pretty dang smooth. Like we get in line for the bathroom, no problems. The plan for this marathon was for me to go, I wanted to go like 80% effort for the first 20 miles, and then I wanted to really turn it up in the last 6 miles. So I wanted to get to mile 20 feeling amazing. And another thing that I was trying with this marathon was the David Roach approach. Crap, I gotta get over. The David Roach approach to fueling. So extremely high carbs. So just consuming between 60 and 80 grams of carbs per hour during the race. So that means about three gels per hour. So having one gel every 20 minutes is about what I was doing. And then I also had a drink. So I had we got these Arrowhead water bottles that had like a little nozzle on it. So you could easily drink from it. So I carried a high carb sports drink in my hand. And then I had like 8 gels in my pockets and waistband and that kind of thing. So we're off. The race starts. It's this beautiful landscape of cactuses and then the sunrise coming up, the orange, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I lock into my 6:40. I'm just watching. I'm keeping an eye on my watch. I didn't really care too much about any pacers, and I just thought I have to stay between like right around 6:40 to 6:50. And so I just did that. I stuck to like a 6:45 pace. There was a big hill at mile 5, I think. So I kind of slowed down and then tried to make up a little ground on the way. So it was just like this uphill and then down on the other side. So kept it very, tame all through 20 miles and felt amazing. And getting to mile 20. And so the whole time I was like, I felt like I was eating a gel constantly, and then I obviously like drank my water. I ditched the bottle that I had at like mile 14 or 15. It was just past the halfway point. I'm getting a little sandwich. I'm getting a little Jersey Mike's right now because I'm actually carb loading, because today is Wednesday. On Saturday, I'm running the Mount Charleston Marathon in Las Vegas. So I'm full carb load mode right now. I've got, full carb sugar Powerade, and we're fueling up right now. So anyways, back to Mesa Marathon story. I'm fueling well. I feel like I have a gel in my hand like the entire time. And so fueling well, running great. My stomach felt good. I didn't have to I never had to stop to go to the bathroom, and feeling really solid. And then I get to mile 20 and I'm thinking, okay, now I'm going to turn it up. Now I'm going to like really push the pace, and maybe, who knows, maybe I'll get like close to like a 252, 253 ish. And so I start pushing the pace, and it's not there. And I think I just tried to go like too fast. I think what you have to do is slowly put the gas pedal down, where you go from like a 640 pace to like 635, 630, 625, like slowly getting down as the time goes on. But I tried to jump from like a 640 down to like a 620, wasn't there. And then the last 6 miles was just a freaking grind, but I was way out ahead of the sub 3 pacer, so I ended up finishing with a 2:56:57, I think was my official time. So got the sub 3 marathon. It felt amazing. It felt amazing to, all the challenges, all the things that built up in like trying to achieve that goal. And I finally was able to knock it off. It was a great race. Everything went as well as it could have gone. Audie also executed on her plan. She hit her goal. She got a 3:19 qualifying for the Boston Marathon. She beat her buffer time by like 6 minutes. So there's no way she doesn't get in. I mean, there is a way, but hopefully she gets in. And it's a great feeling. Wow. Look at that sky. So my purpose in making this video and telling this story is to tell you that you can do it, and that you should do it if you want to, obviously, because there's just so many benefits to it. Like running has taught me so many things. It's taught me about fitness. It's taught me about consistency, like consistency versus discipline. Like there's so many lessons from running. I've also learned a lot about like how improvement a lot of times is like a lack of knowledge rather than a lack of trying hard or a lack of like natural ability. It's just a knowledge gap. Like running, once you figure out exactly how most people get better, like the process of getting better at running, then you realize all you have to do is do those things. You just have to check the boxes and you will get better at running. It's such a cool thing because it's measurable and you can see your progress over time. Like I can look back at some of my old runs and see a much higher heart rate at much slower paces, and it's just a cool feeling. I ran a mile as hard as I could about 2 years ago and I got a 6:26, something like that. That was my all-out mile as hard as I could go. In Mesa, I ran an entire marathon at a 6:46 pace. So you can see so much improvement, and it's actually measurable. You see it in your Strava, and it's just a lot of fun.